making money from games does make sense. And making money from playing games well does make sense because that's primarily how Twitch sort of operates. And I found that difficult enough to sort of explain to my parents. When I started Twitch streaming and I had to explain to them, I also had to sort of sit them down and go, I agree with you. I also agree I shouldn't get paid to play video games. But that's just what's happening.
Yeah. Hello, it's Steffan Powell here, the BBC's gaming reporter in the studio.
Hello, I'm Glenn Moore, comedian and gaming expert.
Hello, I'm Shay Thompson, presenter and journalist.
Hello, I'm Luke Franks. I'm a presenter and host the Welcome to the Metaverse podcast.
Luke's also the best dressed person we've ever had on Press X to continue. And it happens to be on this week where me and you, Glenn, are basically wearing the same thing.
Yeah, I'm cosplaying as you. It's like when you're in GTA 5 and they've run out of NPCs, so they just have like 10 of the same person on the street.
Apparently, I didn't get the denim
Did you
shirt
not
memo.
get the denim shirt memo? Anyway, right, enough about that. One of us is going to go and change right before the end of this. Let's get into it then, Luke, because for some people, they know a lot about NFTs and blockchain gaming. For other people, they won't have a clue. So let's start with an explanation.
Yeah, so I think the simplest way to think about NFTs is to first think about something that's valuable in the normal physical world, right? So we'll start with art as an example because it's kind of the cleanest example, and then we'll apply it to games in a second. So if you think about the Mona Lisa, right, like why is that such a valuable art piece? And it's not really to do with the materials of that piece. So the canvas isn't particularly expensive, or the dye and the paint of that picture isn't particularly expensive. The reason it's valuable is threefold, right? So number one is that we can prove who the creator of that piece was. So Leonardo da Vinci, famous creator, that story is important. You can also prove the scarcity of that piece. There's only one Mona Lisa that was ever created in the world. And then you can also prove the ownership of it now. So it's in the Louvre in Paris, right? So those three things, the creation, the scarcity, and the ownership are kind of what makes that piece valuable. And, until recently, that's not been possible in the digital world. But with blockchain technology, it has enabled it for digital things. So that same criteria. So if I was to create a digital art piece, you could prove that I created it. There's only one of them that is unique, and we could trade it on an open marketplace, and we could track who owns it now. Now, whether the piece that I've created is any good is up for discussion, right? But it's at least could potentially be valuable. And that's really what NFTs are. But they go outside of digital art. They go into, anything digital. So in-game items or games built on this new technology.
Shay, it's been very controversial when games companies have started sort of dipping their toe in this world, in this water, and there's been a lot of fan backlash. People in the gaming scene seem to be a bit miffed by the sort of the movement towards this direction.
Yeah, and I think it's because a lot of companies are sort of ignoring a lot of other problems that their communities have with their games, then be like, oh, now we're doing this shiny new thing. It's like, who asked for this? Yeah. I think is where the backlash is coming from.
And a lot of, in game space as well, Glenn, there's a lot of skepticism about anything that can be seen to be monetizing people's time and their relationship with that game. Like, we've talked before about in-app purchases and loot boxes and things. They go down like a lead balloon, don't they? And people are scared this is something similar.
Well, I think because as well, when you buy a game, you want to think that that's it. That's it. You've purchased the game. You've now got access to everything within that game. And anything on top of that almost feels like a bit of a con for a lot of people. I think there are some aspects where, as Luke has explained, that NFTs would potentially work in games as a reward. So not you necessarily having to part ways with your money, but I think, say something like you've got, say, look at a Ubisoft open world game, something like Assassin's Creed or Far Cry, one where there's tons and tons of things to do, but not necessarily that much of an impetus to sort of do them. I've always thought that maybe it would work if there's a reward for, say, 100% completion in those games that you then get, say, a discount off the next Ubisoft game. Yeah. Or something. That's the only way that I can see there being a financial incentive to games. I can't really get my head... I can get my head around the idea of renting out something like a customizable skin to someone else. I just can't get my head around the idea of someone wanting to buy that.
We have to finish by this. If we're in a position where we can earn by playing, right? If we're in, where that's become sort of has become the norm, we've fast forward 10, 15 years and that is going on. What game would you make most money from? Shay, what are you saying?
Ooh, I guess Animal Crossing, because I have like
You'd make a fortune from
I
Animal
really
Crossing.
would. Honestly, I have so many hours. It's kind of embarrassing.
What about you, Glenn?
Well, it's going to be a game you're good at, right? So it would be Dark Souls. People make so much money.
You
on
wouldn't
stuff
make what? You'd be dying all the time. You wouldn't make any money from that.
No, but if you're good at it, then you wouldn't.
Oh,
Whereas,
yeah, good
like,
point.
that's why on Twitch people make loads and loads of money because they're the best Warzone players or anything like that. And making money from games does make sense. And making money from playing games well does make sense because that's primarily how Twitch sort of operates. And I found that difficult enough to sort of explain to my parents. When I started Twitch streaming and I had to explain to them, I also had to sort of sit them down and go, I agree with you. I also agree I shouldn't get paid to play video games.
But here we are.
that's just what's happening.
Yeah.